Hi, I'm James Guittardi with Fastlane Rod and Customs, and this is my shop. I got started in hot rods when I was a little kid. I saw the movie Christine when I was just a little kid in the 80s, and of course at the time I thought it was a 57 Chevy because that was the quintessential hot rod, right? And I had no idea what I was looking at, but I thought, I want that car so bad. So I had an affinity with 57 Chevys at that age, and I drew them all the time. The little two-dimensional cars with the flames and the doing burnouts with stick figures in them. Later on in life, I figured out that Christine was not a 57 Chevy, and then I fell in love with the Plymouth. I didn't come to age of driving until the early 90s, and by then things like the third generation Camaro and the Bandit car was still cool, mullets and long hair and whatnot. So my first run with hot rods and doing cars was definitely the later model stuff at the time. So I obsessed with Camaros. I had a 78 Trans Am that I loved and called the Bandit car. I know that one was a 77, but same thing. And then I went, it was a sickness. Just like people do now with Craigslist, I was buying, selling, and trading old cars from the time I was 16 to the time I was 18, I probably had 20 cars, you know. Out of necessity, not being a rich kid at all, I had to work on them myself. My dad worked on cars and growing up, and he had a 65 Falcon. That was the last car he had, and I used to watch him work on it. And even my sister had a boyfriend who was building Mustangs and things at the time. So I was around it, and I started tinkering with all my cars same way, you know, hopping up the motor, things like that. Well, my tastes grew to more of a traditional hot rod when I got closer to 18, 19 years old. And, you know, a lot of my friends were getting into tuners at the time. You know, I had a couple of them for fun because I could get them cheap, but never held my interest. That's when my taste turned more to the traditional customs and hot rods that I didn't realize at the time was a different sect from all the stuff that I'd already been doing. So I started reading about it. The internet was an infant at the time. I started reading about it, getting magazines, things like that. My dad showed me a lot of his old hot rod magazines, things like that. And that's when I learned the difference between what a hot rod and a custom car was, and what the difference between a 90s custom and a 50s custom was. And that was the beginning of my affinity with traditional customs and hot rods. Fast forward many, many years later, I become an adult. I work and I done so many other things, and even dabbled with motorcycles. I learned how to build the cars myself, and then it was just a matter of just over the years of collecting the tools and doing it out of my house and being a little more bolder every year to do something more, to the point where, you know, I'd taken some classes, some welding certification classes and metalworking classes, and eventually getting even older and I you know, learned under Gene Winfield a little bit. You know, I did all kinds of other things, and just kind of branched out on my own and did it my own way. So Fastlane as a brand started as a tattoo shop first. That was my first company to own. Tattooed for years, still tattoo. And now Fastlane as a brand is everything that I am passionate about, which would be art, tattooing, custom cars, hot rods, metal fabrication, creation. It's all art related in my opinion. I don't consider myself a fabricator. I consider myself an artist, and I feel like I sculpt these cars. I don't feel like I fabricate, even though that is what I do technically. I look at it as an art project, making things look pretty, making them look fast, making them cool, making them unique, making them custom. So that's Fastlane. Area evenly. show you something. So it sticks to the tinned area, but it won't stick. It won't stick. See? It won't stick to the non-tinned area. All right, then you got your paddle. Then you get to working it. It gets to be a little shiny color. You can start moving it around. See, that wasn't tinned right there, and it just came right off. And this would be the finished product of the leading process. This was done prior. There's some junk in it now. This was done a little while ago on the other side of the car. But it's the same exact area. So we worked the lead all the way in where we seamed it. We shrunk the package tray an inch and filled it in this area here with the lead. Obviously, we'll lead the entire back end when it's completed. This project was started by somebody else, and I'm finishing the project, so I'm getting into it a little late. You will see where the old lead was as compared to the new lead. What I'm going to do is I'll come back and I'm going to sand this down and go over it once more with some lead and work it all in. It'll be smooth as glass. The lead also comes down through here. We have a seam that comes right past this. This has all been leaded in the past, so all we're doing is just going back with the same stuff. Their seam was right here, and there's another one over there. This is old lead, and this is the new lead. It'll get all smoothed out when we finish the rest of it, but for demonstration purposes, just wanted to show you the before and after the process of leading. Once you have all of the necessary equipment to do it, anybody can. It's a pretty inexpensive startup. It's a little more labor intensive than just using plastic body filler, but it is the traditional way. And if you're interested in doing lead work for your lead sled, then I definitely recommend going with the Eastwood package. It's the best for your money. And anybody can do it at home with a basic torch and the starter pack.